Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review The Grudge. So, this is The Grudge 2004. This is the original United States Grudge. The Grudge 2004. A lot of people immediately will ask, right out of the gate, well, was this scary for you? Did you pee yourself? Is this going to haunt you for the rest of your days? Is this the scariest movie that you've ever seen? Honestly, I would say that yes. Bells and whistles and confetti fall. The Grudge is actually a sort of scary film. I say sort of because there are bits and pieces which I think are kind of mostly in the early parts of this film. And then once they continue to oh, I gotta just keep trying to scare people. I think they try too hard, in this movie. I think there are a little bit of try too hards. And then I just kind of was like, meh. There was maybe a thing here and there that maybe got me a little bit jumpy. Mostly if you probably watch this movie on complete mute, it probably isn't scary at all. If anything, most of what this movie had gotten me was just straight up sounds. So really, I started to watch the movie, and I just kept lowering the volume during the, I kept lowering the volume during the movie, just because I'm like, you ain't gonna get me by just doing frickin' sound crap? I'm not gonna get frickin' scared that way. It tried to do that stuff to me. And I would say it is just it's a uncomfortable movie. It's an unsettling film, but I never felt the remake was actually scary. Maybe the sequel was kind of getting me at my edge of my seat, but really, both of those movies, both of the remake films, I don't remember about the Tim Curry film, but those were actually just unsettling. To me, this movie actually had me jump at some parts. And really, again, a lot of it was mostly just sound. If I watched this entire movie on mute, I wouldn't have had a problem at whatsoever. So, because I'm kind of that guy where it's simple things like hearing crap just gets to me. That's why, I hated the old movies where, they would kind of tease you with crap, where you would have those little, the Jaws theme where it's dun dun and it's where is it going to come from? Where is it going to happen? And 12 years later, oh, it's just a shark man and boogity boogity. It's garbage. It's cheap. Kind of how I felt about this movie. It felt very cheap because, man, does this story just not exist of this film. Yes, you could say there is a story, but it's not this movie feels all over the gosh darn place, and the place of which that it goes into, I'm not exactly interested in. And so, thank God that I only am probably going to be interested in only watching one of these films. And I know a lot of people will probably say, "Oh yeah, well, the other grudges, they get better." If anything, there probably is only one Grudge movie that you should probably watch, and it's probably this one. I watched the remake, The Grudge, and I'm like, you know what? That movie might have a better story, but it doesn't have better scares, and it doesn't have really much of scares whatsoever in that freaking film. Really, it tries to do, stuff darker, and it has, some kind of, gross out moments or whatever, but I didn't think it was actually scary. I didn't. So this movie does have to be scary for me. So more than likely, it'll be probably terrifying for anyone else. Believe me. You'll be peeing your pants through the whole entire movie, I'm sure. So, The Grudge is a sort of scary movie for me. Sort of. I have to say that. There's an asterisk or something like for this movie for me being scared. Because I was also like, I was scared, but like, I was like 30% scared, 70% bored. And that's the ratio of this film. So, The Grudge and Drag Me to Hell and House 1985 are actually scary films to me. I would recommend all three of those, but both Drag Me to Hell and House have a better story than this film. So, if you actually want to watch an overall good and plus also actually seemingly scary film, check both of those out. If you have never actually seen either one of those films, you will actually get really much more scared than you probably would. So, because House is actually a good quality film, uh, and also pretty gosh darn scary. Like I feel like probably House is probably the scariest out of the three that I just mentioned, because like it'll get you if you've never seen it. So moving on. So what is to set up this film? The story of which that it does not have. So we are to have a kind of a barrage of different kind of stories within this story, and like all these things are just bizarrely interconnected with one another. So we have a couple who is to move in their old mother into a house. And so once they decide, like, yeah, we should really move into this house, I'm sure it's not going to haunt us to death and, like, come after us for the rest of this film. I'm sure we'll be completely fine. But, man, would you be wrong? And so eventually we have Emma, who is to be the old mother, who is to be the only one that is still kicking out of all of this. But, like, all the rest of her family, you could probably assess where they eventually head to. But then people keep getting sent out to repetitiously have to take care of this old woman. And so people just bizarrely just keep getting sent out, like, no matter what happens with any of the previous nurses. And so the more and more people go into this house, the more and more people regret it. Even detectives, even any number of people that make their way into this house eventually will regret it. And eventually will probably die. So, really, I guess there's no, like, breaking of the curse in this movie, with the exclusion of maybe the very tail end of this movie. But still, I don't even think that that's even possible. I don't think there's any way to break the curse of The Grudge. If there was a breaking of the curse, let me know in the comments below. Maybe there is a solving thing of this movie, but I don't think so. Like, I just think that it's just like, hey, you go into the house, you die. So here's my thing. I am never gonna go and step into a home that is in a certain part of the world because it might be Grudge House. Like, I'm not going to try and step into anybody's home that has ghost stories involved in it. If someone tells me, hey, yeah, my house has a ghost story involved in it, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to go in your house because I don't want to die, or I don't want to have a consistent ghost coming after me, because I've seen the movie Ghostbusters more than 100 times. Like, I think that, like, maybe I can just, like, paranormal investigating information them to death, and then, which they are already dead, so I'll just annoy the crap out of them, and then they'll just leave. So, good idea. Just annoy them to death, which they're already dead, but annoy them double death. Anyways, moving on. So, really, it just, like, that's just the concept of this film. People go into a house, people die. And plus, that's really what just goes on in this film. We end up finding out that there is an affair, I guess, that had gone on, and really that caused a lot of deaths for a lot of people in this house. And like, so yeah, like that's the real legit part of this movie is just go in house, die. Really, that's it. So I think it's about that time to go into spoilers about this movie. Here's the thing. I've tried a couple times to like start this kind of review, and every single time I'm just like, man, this movie was boring, but man, I need to just get this out. This is a movie that I really just need to get out. Like, I just need to get done with. Because, like, I spent so much time being actually scared during it. Like, I actually jumped during certain points. And so, like, it was actually, like worth it to just go in here to review this movie, to get it done with. Because then I will actually have the memory of this movie and talk about it. Because really, like, as soon as like the day after I watch this, I'm gonna completely forget all about it because I would love to. So let's get into this. Let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we get to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below if you like any of the other The Grudge films. Maybe some of them get better. Maybe story-wise, some of them get better. And maybe I will go and look into other Grudge films. Maybe you could say that they're all garbage and I'll never have to watch another one of these. Really, like, I'm not much of a franchise-like person when it comes down to movies. I would much rather just watch like a one-off thing here, one-off thing there. Like, eventually I'll get back to like the sequel of something. But I don't know, like, I'm not much of a franchise person, so immediately if someone were to say, like, oh man, I want you to watch every single one of these Grudge films, I'm gonna be like, I don't really care to. And they'll be like, yeah, because the stories suck. Like, more than likely they will. So, with that said, I am going into spoiler territory right here. So, in the very beginning of this movie, we are to have a actor who is called Bill Pullman. So Bill Pullman is to enter in the beginning of this movie and go ahead and just decides to, hey, you know what? I'm a guy named Peter and I'm seeing my wife. I'm looking at her. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just go onto my balcony and then just fall off. He just goes ahead and just falls off. And actually he falls off in a severely goofy way. Like, he doesn't just go and just like, you know what, I'm just gonna flip my one foot and the other and I'm just gonna plata. No, like, this guy has to fall bizarrely to his death. And so we just see Peter who falls to his death and we don't understand why. And now we are freaking baffled and confused by this film. But in case and tell, here we go. So we have a girl who is to take care of Emma. So this girl is the first nurse of Emma, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck her name is, because I probably won't remember any of the names of any of these people, and IMDb is not helping because a lot of these they have no face, so I have no clue. So the first nurse of Emma is to eventually start cleaning up Emma's home, and it seems like Emma doesn't have anybody in her home but Emma. So this nurse is going and just going through the house and cleaning up, and then eventually she is to eventually go into this room and open this closet and just see there's a little like trinket thing there, and she's like, hmm. And then all of a sudden she's to go and look into the attic because why not? Like this nurse is just really thorough for some bizarrish reason. And so we have here this nurse that is to, with light in hand, eventually go and see the Grudge person and gets consumed all up in this attic via this Grudge-esque like person. Which we'll find out this Grudge-esque like person has a backstory, interestingly enough. So it's barely. So now we're pulling back a little bit here to showcase the way that Emma is to get into this home, because that's the point of which that I would rather focus on rather than getting to the actual Karen parts. So Matthew, Jennifer, and Susan are to all go with their mother Emma and go and buy a house in of course, I believe, Japan. Like, I don't know what part of Japan, because Japan. Anyways, so they go ahead and just buy this house, and Emma is going into a part of a room in this house, just blatantly just staring at one part of this house repetitiously, just like, I gotta stare into this one part. And so both Matthew, Jennifer, and Susan all eventually find their mother, and they're just like, okay, what is she staring at? Like, what is she, like, consistently focused at? I don't understand it. I don't see what she's seeing. So while Matthew, Jennifer, and Susan and Emma are all looking through this house, we have the seller of this house who is to go ahead and see that there is a tub full of water. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to unplug the cork of this bath, and hopefully nothing is going to just reach out and touch somebody, which it does. So all of a sudden there is a reaching out of said man, and so this guy gets terrified, and all of a sudden he has like hair like on his hand, and he's like, oh my god. So that part, I would say, like, it kind of kept me on the edge of my seat, but I wasn't actually scared. I honestly, like, knew what was coming because I've seen this movie dose times. And so I kind of remember this part, so it kind of kept me on the edge of my seat because I'm waiting for the freaking thing to come, but, like, I didn't remember exactly when. It's kind of like at the very end of Friday the 13th when Jason is to jump out at the boat. Like, it's like, man, that, like, takes forever to get Jason out of that freaking water. And I'm like, man, I'm like waiting. I'm like, come on, Jason. Jump out. I know you're going to do it. Like, I know where you're coming from, too. Like, come on. Like, give me that sweet splash out of the water. And then he does. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, you did it. Like, the movie's now over. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. So, the seller is to luckily just be freaking out, but then Matthew comes into the bathroom as well, and he's like, hey man, like, could we see more of this house? And the seller's like, yeah, sure, yeah, I can't wait to freaking sell this so I can just make the money easily and you'll all be probably dead, more or less. So it seems like they are won over by this house, and it seems probably close to Matthew's job, so I guess they're just kind of like, yeah, I guess we're just going to take this house. So what ends up happening is that Emma right away is to, like, I'm focusing on the parts where I actually liked in this movie rather than, like, this. So it'll tell you, like, I felt like there were some parts that I felt like were a waste of time in this movie. But these parts here I actually did enjoy out of all the other garbage. So Emma is to go to sleep because I guess of all the travel, and like Jennifer is getting concerned, but Matthew is just like no, like she's just tired from all the travel. Like I'm sure, like the very next day she'll just reset and readjust, and everything will be fine. So eventually, we have Jennifer that is to eventually go into a room and completely disappear. And so Matthew is to kind of eventually come home from work, and he is just kind of looking around, and like the whole place is all just really messed up, like a cat ran through it, because I know what cats like. I've had a cat that like just ransacks through your whole home, tears everything up, and you're like, mother. But like, cause we had Jennifer who went to the grocery store, and she obviously did have no clue what she was buying, and so Jennifer, I guess, bought some like instant ramen noodles, and so she has this ramen noodles on this coffee table, and Jennifer is to quickly fall asleep to just wake up to realize that this ramen noodles is on the floor, and bizarrely there's footprints of seemingly a child size. So Jennifer is to find the place where the kid is to be at. She goes into a door and vanishes, or just doesn't come out of the door again, because she goes in the room, the door closes behind her, and so now she's sleeping in a bed. So Matthew is to come home after work to go in and like see what's happening, see what's up, and there's all kinds of messes all over the floor. Again, like a cat would be rummaging through a lot of crap. So Matthew is like, "What the heck? Like, is this Turner and Hooch, where Tom Hanks is gonna have to tell like Hooch like this is not your room." This is not your stereo. This is not your whichever. But anyway, so Matthew makes his way to like make it through the house, and eventually he is to make it to uh, Jennifer's room. And Jennifer is just catatonic. She's just like, not like she's not saying, like all the other weird ghost things. They're just like, and then Susan will get a cool little call that she ends up just like doing like click. Like that sounds like some like somebody's just doing a burping contest. But that's what they do. That's what these ghosts do in this movie. They do the I do it much more scarier than they do. Theirs is kind of like that. Actually, that is even better than what they actually do in the movie, because they're doing the little, like this stupid little, like it seems like kind of like a cat or some kind of weird like bizarre click click noise, and it's freaking stupid. It's not scary at all. If anything, it's just annoying in all brutal honesty. But anyways, so uh so Matthew again is in home, looking at woman that he is to love, and so Matthew is all of a sudden like trying to have a light be on, and so all of a sudden Matthew is to see a little boy, and then so Matthew like freaks out because he's like, whoa, like hey, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden like he is starting to see like certain kind of things, and he's freaking out. He's starting to hear cat noises, freaking out. And so eventually that's when the thing comes after Matthew and consumes him, because you don't really exactly see it. So Susan is to call and leave a message mentioning that mentioning about like their mother and stuff like that. So it seems that eventually we have Karen, who is to eventually get this message somewhere later on in the movie. Uh, and I thought that was just kind of weird. So Susan is to do her job, and then all of a sudden she's doing her job a little too well because the ghosts appear while Susan is basically making her way through her buildings. So it seems consistent that like Susan is kind of seeing things appear while at her office. There is even a point where she is to go up through this elevator, and every floor she's to see the boy ghost consistently showing up repetitiously through the floors, like getting closer and closer to the thing, but you're to kind of see him every single time. But again, that's not actually scary to me. Like, plus also the number of times where we are to see like the Grudge ghost come in as like a shadowy like figure or whatever. Like the one point where Sarah Michelle Gellar is on the bus and the ghost thing is to be in the window, I thought that was stupid. And plus anything that felt cheap like that, where they just have like the ghost in the background of something to make you uncomfortable, doesn't make me uncomfortable. But like there are parts of this movie that again are scary. So let's just say that. So, like parts. And I'm really just stressing the parts part. So let's get into that. So, but Susan is to go through her job, and then eventually she is to go home, put on a little bit of that bed sheet, and all of a sudden, like somebody is crawling in to Susan's bed. And so Susan is to pop up her sheets and say, "How do you do?" Man, you know what? I hated, and I mean hated, when here's what my cats used to do. So I would go and I would just like put up my bed sheets and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna have a good night's sleep. This feels good. And so all of a sudden, my cats would go and take the very tail end of the bed sheet, and so they would like crawl into the bed via the bed sheet, and most of the time they would crawl like in between my legs, and so like they would just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna sleep in between your legs. Like hopefully you don't get freaking like scared that something's gonna crawl into your bed sheets at night, and freaking like I don't know how many times I'm like, mother to where I just like, no, you're not getting into my bed sheet anymore. Like, no, that's freaking scary as So, anyways, cats, right? Cats. So, moving on. So, Susan is to eventually get a little jump via the Grudge person, while Susan is to lift up her bedsheet like, hey, this wasn't what I thought it was. I didn't think I was going to see Grudge Lady under my sheets tonight. Yeah, like that part still wasn't scary for me because like it felt like here's the wind up, here's the pitch. Like I kind of figured there would be a Grudge Lady under the sheets. That wasn't a surprise to me. So because I thought it would like what was it going to be, the cat? Then it was going to be Grudge Lady? Then I would have been like, what if like she would have done like a double take? Like, huh? Grudge Lady? No? Cat? Huh? That would have been funny. That would have actually been good. If she would have like done a double take and every single time it would have been a different thing, I would have liked that. I would have bought into that. That would have actually been scary. But anyways, because like you would have thought it would have been nothing, and then all of a sudden would have been Grudge Lady, and that would have been scary. That would actually like been a lot scarier than what they actually did. So, moving on. So, Susan is taken. So, it is what it is. It's great. So, Karen is to make her way into this house, being a substitute nurse for the original girl who just stopped showing up because she was just clearly lazy. Clearly, she was just freaking just... she was the laziest nurse out of all the nurses. I don't know why she was, but I have that feeling bizarrely in my heart. It's not that she went into an attic one day and just never came back. No, she was just lazy. She was just like, you know what, with this movie, for sure, all that. Like, I don't want any piece of this movie. Like, I'm done. So, Sarah Michelle Gellar had to step in as Karen and is to substitute for this nurse for one whole day. And it seems that this one whole day is taking a lot longer than one whole day. That's for sure. So, Karen is to eventually go into this house, and eventually Karen is to get scared, seemingly by Emma, when Emma is to, like, put her hand out to frickin' Karen, and that's what got me, was the frickin' sound of this woman, like, putting her hand out from that door. I'm like, I'm like, I think this got me originally when I watched this movie in the theater. And frickin', I hate the gosh darn sounds of things. Because if this was on mute, wouldn't have been scared. But no, a stupid hand that grabs out frickin'. Goddamn. That was actually scared. I was actually scared at that point. I jumped. Barely. I flinched. It was a flinch time. But man, like, that part was just like, that feels so cheap. The scares of this movie feel cheap, but still, at least it feels scary. So anyways, Karen is to go and clean up Emma and, like, try to talk to her, and, like, she's not even trying to speak Japanese. She could have, like, spoke Japanese, and then Emma would have said, yeah, I understand you now. Like, I didn't understand you when you were talking all that English bullshit. Like, I want you to actually talk, like, Japanese. Then I'll actually understand you. But here's the thing. Like, Karen is to... Like, the first time we're to really see Karen, she is with Doug. It seems like Doug is going to school and has this big exam. And so Karen is to tell Doug, hey, you know what, actually, like, you got up like an hour early, so if anything, like, you can come back to bed and, like, stay with me a little bit longer, and then, like, before your big exam, like, maybe you and me can have a little exam ourselves, if you know what I mean. And Doug is like, well, sure, I think I can be I think I can be ready for a 10-minute cramming, if you know what I mean. SEX jokes of the school nature, isn't it fun? So I thought that whole, like, Doug, Sarah, or Doug, Karen moment at the beginning there, when she set the clock an hour early for Doug. Like, I just thought that was just like, kill me now. Anyways, moving on. Just do it. I'm right here. Do it now. Do it. I'm here because I hated that scene. Do it now. So Karen is to eventually take care of Emma. And while she is to take care of Emma, Karen is to eventually, like, start to get freaking scared, because eventually Emma is to say that, like, yeah, she won't leave me alone. And Karen's like, say what? So what are you talking about? And then so all of a sudden, Karen is to see the shadowy figure in a corner of the room of this ghost-esh-like thing. And so Karen is now seeing this stuff, and she is to now be terrified by it. And so everywhere she goes, she is to eventually see things. Eventually, Emma is to see the little boy, and because Karen is to see the little boy right away when she is to get into this house. She is to call a friend of hers and say that this boy is in this house and she doesn't understand how this boy is in this house. Like, she didn't realize that there was going to be a boy in this house, but evidently the boy is Japanese. Karen starts speaking to him in Japanese, and the boy does not answer. If anything, it's all row, row, row. And so, really, like, I think the points that actually got me were the points when eventually the people were to go into the closet, and like the kid with the cat in the closet, I think, was something that actually scared me, just because of the cat was like, man, and I think that got me once. But I also thought that scene was like cheap and garbage. Like really, if you had it on mute, it wouldn't have been scary. But still, like any number of other scenes would have been, like, if you took the sound out, wouldn't have been scary. So, anyways, but I still jumped. So point is taken to Gryffindor, I guess, of this day. So, going into this film, Karen is to start seeing some things, and she is to eventually go on a bus with Doug and eventually see the ghost in the window, which I thought was garbage. And so now Karen is desperately trying to, like, do all kinds of investigation about every bit of this home, or every bit of like, trying to understand why this house is haunted by this ghostly spirit that Karen is to consistently see and talk to, like as if it's Sarah Michelle Gellar is Scott Bakula, and this ghost is like Al from Quantum Leap. You ever see that movie? No, or the show. I mean, it could have been a movie. It could have been made for TV, but anyways. But anyways, pushing on. So Sarah is consistently seeing this ghost. Doug isn't seeing this ghost because he didn't go in the house. So, sucks to be him. So, Karen is to eventually investigate this house to find out that there had been some previous people there that evidently Peter had an affair with a woman who had lived in this home previously. And so what had happened is that this husband had taken this wife and hurt her, and then eventually snapped her neck in this house, and I guess also killed their kid, I guess maybe by drowning him in this tub, or the kid drowned himself in the tub. I'm not 100% sure. And then eventually the husband had hung himself in some room. Because eventually, Karen will eventually go in this home and start seeing this whole thing play out, where Peter is going through this home, finding this kid there, and trying to understand what exactly had happened. And eventually Peter is to get so scared that he is to leave this home. And, really, Peter also just left because he had an affair with this woman, and he just decided, well, you know what, I'm going to cut and run, because really, I could technically say I have no tie with these people. It was just an affair. It was just a fling with some student of his. Because eventually he is to get a letter from this student. Plus also we are to find that Peter was to have numerous pictures with his wife. But every single one of these pictures that Peter is to have with him and his wife there is his creepy affair woman in the background of every single one of them. And I thought that was like, ha 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 ha, this is ridiculous. But it's so good. It's so goofy. Every single photo that is taken, the creepy girl in the background is just like, meh. Like, I'm having an affair with him, and so I have to photobomb him. I thought that was so cool. Like, how this girl was in every single shot. And, like, we just have, like, Sarah who's like, oh, man, is she going to be in the other one? Is she going to be in the other one? Is she going to be in the other one? Oh, my God, she is. Wow. Exciting. So, that I actually thought was good. That I actually thought was fun. Like, I liked that. Like, that was, like, a stupid and goofy thing. But I also thought, like, man, how rare do we actually get those kind of moments where we have a ton of photo rolls and coincidentally the same girl is bizarrely just in the back of the photo just creeping in. I wish they would actually do that a lot freaking more often, but they don't. So, freaking is the way it is. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but also rushing through this as well. Holy crap, we're at like 41 minutes. Time to rush even more. So, Karen is to eventually try to figure this whole thing out. Karen is to actually go to Peter's wife and try to figure things out. And Peter's wife has really nothing for Karen. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know much about Peter's activities. I just knew that he was I just knew things about him, but I didn't know anything that kind of stuck out as like anything really and truly like special or whatever that would lead him to take his own life. But I guess eventually Peter took his own life because of grief, because of losing probably his only real true love. And maybe Peter was eventually going to leave his wife for this woman. Who knows? Or maybe he was just being haunted by this woman, and maybe he just decided to take his own life because he was getting haunted. So, Karen is to spend this whole entire day just trying to find information about this house. And Doug is getting worried, so he calls Karen, is like, hey, yeah, like that house that you're evidently spending so much time in, I'm getting a little worried, I'm getting a little concerned, so I'm going to go over to that house. I'm going to see what's cool about it. And so Karen is like, no, don't go into the house because it'd be haunted forever. So Doug makes his way into the house to just see what's happening. And so eventually Karen is to make her way running into the house. And so what ends up playing out is that all of a sudden Karen is to hear this bizarrish talking that I'm not quite sure exactly what any of it is. Plus, there's also these detectives that are to eventually find Matthew and Jennifer in the attic of this home, and they just call it a murder-suicide, but that's not right. And plus, also, these detectives are trying to ask Karen consistent information, like as if they're Columbo or something, and they have to figure out something. I think here's the problem that I had about this movie. I didn't have the subtitles of the detectives that spoke a different language, so you might have to find the right movie for this that does have subtitles, because when the detectives were talking, I couldn't hear a word of what they were saying. If you already know that language, then that'll be easy for you to be able to understand what these people are saying without dialogue, but I didn't have the dialogue, and I just kind of got annoyed. But bizarrely, there was a point where on the mail where I did get a thing of subtitles, but I didn't get subtitles for the detectives while they were talking, and I thought that was garbage. Because, like, what the fuck? Like, I want to know what's going on with the detectives, even though it could be just common stuff that I really and honestly truly didn't care about. So, but pushing on, eventually we have one of the detectives that are watching one of these cameras that are to have been at Susan's work. And all of a sudden, like, the Grudge character keeps getting closer and closer and closer and closer into the TV. And I thought that spot actually was cool, but I didn't get scared. But I thought the spot was cool. And how, like, it just kept getting closer and it was, like, scaring the detective. I think that spot was cool. I wasn't scared, but it was cool. So, anything else that I probably didn't mention through here? As far as scary points, probably there's a good reason why I didn't mention any other scary parts, probably at this point in rushing to the end, because there's probably a lot of stuff that actually wasn't scary. Like, there is, like, some stuff that they bizarrely try to do with bringing in, like, the Grudge girl, like, from the ceiling or from somewhere, and, like, bringing her in as this shadow thing, and I thought that was kind of dumb. I'm like, I'm not scared of that. Like even the part where you had, like, the hand coming from the back of the girl's head, and it's like it's coming in her shower, where, like, it's coming from the back of her is like I thought that was stupid. I thought that, like, that was the one thing that they, like, were so proud about, that they had to like even in the remake they have to, like, redo that and make it seem important, and I'm like, I don't give a crap about that. Like, if anything, like, yeah, it might look scary, but like, it's just, like, there need to have been, like, a face coming out of the back of that girl's hair, not, like, there needed to have been a face, not a hand. That just like, I guess that could make somebody, like, uncomfortable, but I wasn't scared. So, for that part, plus I knew shower scene. There's only one shower scene in this movie. There's a tub scene and there's a shower scene. Man, they're doing all kinds of things for freaking people who should be as scared of baths / showers. Because I guess Jaws took care of the ocean, so everything else. So, let's get into... So, Karen goes back into the house, and so Karen is to eventually see all of these flashbacky moments with Peter and everything like that. And so, eventually, after this whole, like, barrage of scenes are to be done, Karen is to eventually spot Doug, and... So here's what pops down the stairs is Grudge Lady, who's just like, you know what, I just gotta start sliding down these stairs, just make my way down here to meet and greet these people. So, all of a sudden, Doug is to be consumed by Grudge Lady, and so, bizarrely, Karen is to see, when she is to go into this house, numerous things of gasoline that I don't understand why they are there. And if there is a reason why they are there, I wish that I could figure out why that they are there, because that makes no sense. Like, it seems like somebody was prepping for this house to be burnt down. Did Doug bring the things of gasoline? Did, it had to have been Doug, right? Like, I didn't see Doug bringing in things of gasoline. What were the gas? What was gas? Why was gas? Like, at first, I thought it was like laundry detergent. I thought it was like, oh, somebody brought in some laundry detergent. And then all of a sudden, like, no, it's actually gas. I'm like, why, who, why, where, if any, like, why would somebody bring gas into a house? Was there a generator present that I wasn't aware of? Like, why was there gas present? Why was there a cutscene that I didn't see something about a generator or gasoline? Oh my god, this movie. Was somebody cutting the lawn and they needed the side gas? Like, what was the gasoline about? Karen didn't bring in the gas, did she? Who brought in the gas? Why is there gas there? Breaking my brain. So, all of a sudden Karen has decided, well, since my boyfriend is basically a dead corpse anyways, because this guy is just catatonic now, he's like, like, Karen is to just decide, well, you know what, I'm going to put Doug into my arms and then just burn down this and just watch it burn. But here's the thing. Doug is all of a sudden no longer Doug, and then Doug is Grudge Lady, and Karen is just like, well, I'm hugging the Grudge Lady now, so I'll just have Grudge Lady just consume me, but I'll still burn down her house, so I'll still get technically even with her. But what ends up happening is this house is to burn down, and Karen is to be back in the hospital, and so Karen is to, I think, God, I don't remember exactly how this ends. Karen is to eventually go into hospital and go and look at. Oh, also, God, what is his name? Alex. Alex was to be killed off by the original nurse. It seems like the original nurse had lost her jaw, and so Alex was haunted by the original nurse, who now is coming at Alex without a jaw. So you're just kind of seeing her like tongue just dangle in the air, and she's like, "Yeah, like I'm coming after you." Like I again thought that scene was goofy, but at least it made like some kind of sense. Like it didn't feel like a random thing. It actually felt like, oh, so like the original nurse is going after Alex. That actually seems to make some kind of sense because Alex did go into that house briefly, but still he went in there. So he'll have to die for that. So eventually, Karen is to go down in a part of this hospital to check on this body, and there seems to be a grudge person that is to be appearing behind Karen and going and taking Karen out, because there's no way to have Karen avoid this. Eventually she is going to eventually get taken out by this thing. She can't avoid it. She might as well just surrender to it, because there is no way out. There is no way home. So with that said, I think I covered a bulk of this movie. I probably skipped and ran through a lot of it like I was running a marathon. But with that said, I am going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.